My other phone tells me how much I can record, but this one doesn't. Let's see. To recap, I don't usually masturbate, hadn't masturbated this year yet, did last night so that I could go to sleep. Woke up from a dream where I narrowly escaped danger, thinking about someone and being like, maybe that means I shouldn't contact them. I don't know, that's who I thought to contact, but as it turned out, they had contacted me as soon as I woke up. And I wanted to take care of the guinea pig pin, and I wasted spoons getting the Dyson out and setting it up to find out it doesn't actually work. And so I said to Sean, roommate, friend, life partner, other half of ability to be independent disabled person, I need a dustbuster or I need the Dyson fixed so I can properly take care of the guinea pigs. And his response to I need a dustbuster was we should just get rid of them. He thinks we should just get rid of the guinea pigs now, and that's very upsetting. So feeling triggered to rage from the vacuum and then his bullshit on top of that, I actually was searching for the rage related to oxycodone withdrawal to understand chemically what's going on. That oxycodone rage gives me adrenaline that fuels me into action, so I work up a pain and then require more oxycodone. But I found this, which is Advice for an Empath Recovering from Narcissistic Abuse, The Necessity of Rage by Dr. Ava Pomeranc. It is a 6-minute read. I'd venture to say that over half the human population has felt or currently has something that triggers rage from within them. And for many of us, we have never been taught how to deal with this complex, effectual experience. In fact, most of us don't understand what rage is, or are terrified when trying to deal with it, when it appears. This way of relating to rage, unfortunately, becomes the Achilles heel for most, and especially empaths. Rage is an expression of despair, fear, disgust, shame, and deep, and often overwhelming, anger. Rage is a visceral experience just as much as an emotional experience. It is a feeling that often gets triggered by a perceived or real boundary violation, threat of abandonment or neglect, or threat of something traumatic occurring for the self or to someone we care about. Often those who have experienced severe traumatic experiences in their life, usually based in the context of relationships, carry and experience rage. It may take actually very little, if not just the right trigger, to ignite rage. And these people may feel overwhelmed and not know how to manage it. There are internalizing and externalizing expressions of this rage, when one feels overwhelmed and incapable of dealing with it in the self. Those who externalize, who are often narcissistic, so narcissists externalize, compulsively act out on others in a physical, relational, and or emotional way, primarily using projection and blame, in order to dispel the visceral experience of their own rage. So to dispel their experience of rage, narcissists act out using projection and blame. Those who internalize, empaths, who are often more empathetic or actual empaths, may act out their rage on their self in the form of codependent over accountability to others, with self-directed perfectionism, self-denial, self-hatred, and self-dismissal, which often leads to depression and suicidal behavior. Even the most empathetic and nonviolent of us have rage, even though we may not acknowledge it. In fact, Us empathetic folk have a lot of bottled up rage because we often deny and suppress it and become perfectionistic with ourselves about our integrity and goodness. And therefore it isn't obvious to those around us that we are just as rageful as a narcissist. In fact, most people who end up with narcissists are empaths because we have the same amount of rage we attempt to manage. And this allows us to fit together in complementary ways. And how, may you ask, more specifically, are they complementary? Well, the narcissist expresses the qualities of rage that the empath disowns or actively represses within their self. And the narcissist then exploits the fact that the empath disowns these parts of their self to keep them hooked into being in a relationship and capable of being manipulated. As part of being empathetic and likely a healer type, empaths learn to disown their capacity for rage and hatred toward others, because they can use their big hearts and overactive self-perfectionism and integrity to easily depend on being able to understand another's motivations and have compassion for them despite the other's behavior. In addition, their capacity to feel with and for another's pain often is used as a way to override their own pain and terror of causing harm and disconnection, and is very much dependent upon them suppressing their own rage. Add into this that narcissists, as a part of externalizing their rage, will shift the focus and responsibility onto the empath, which is called projection. This manifests as constantly being critical of the empath's integrity and capacity to be compassionate and understanding, and thus placing more pressure on the empath to prove their integrity and compassion, empathy and understanding. The empath gives them what they want because they already are highly perfectionistic in regard to monitoring their goodness and feel overly responsible for others' well-being. And in their mind, they take on the work of suppressing the rage and taking on the narcissistic person's needs, concerns, or hurts in order to help the narcissist and avoid doing the harm the narcissist says they do by resisting this projection of rage. They maintain this taking on of the projection to further prove themselves as good and worthy of connection and to maintain relationship connection. If you add spirituality to the equation, because many healers are also spiritual, they may also use their spiritual practice and their capacity to generate more loving, accepting, and compassionate states as a way to bypass these feelings of rage and prove themselves. And they do this because they feel identified with the healer position in service of helping everyone heal, to avoid falling into depression and to maintain peace and connection. I feel like this is not well written, or maybe I'm not reading it right, but this is very difficult for me to understand even reading it aloud, and I'm reading it aloud because I couldn't understand it reading it silently to myself. So as long as the empath denies their rage and their core human boundaries around how the core So as long as the empath denies their rage and their core human boundaries around how the narcissist treats them, they stay stuck with a narcissist. And when the narcissist begins to wear on them and they do happen to get angry and act out from this place, the narcissist has more evidence to use against them. But they are, in fact, the harmful, abusive, bad, or narcissistic one. So narcissists think that the empath that they are abusing is a narcissist. And since the empath's keenly aware of not being identified with these bad behaviors and feels responsible for others' well-being, no matter how justified the empath is to feel and act this rageful way in self-defense, they work harder to become even more understanding, empathetic, and tolerant to counteract the painful rage feelings that build and may sometimes get released. And the cycle continues until the empath doesn't know who they are anymore and feels extremely exhausted, self-critical, and depressed from trying and failing with the narcissist over and over again. They feel exhausted and depressed from having to keep on the defense while continuing to bypass and redirect their rage towards themselves in order to maintain connection and their identity as a non-violent, always perfectly accountable healer. I do not identify with this perfectly accountable healer bullshit. The last thing they want to do is hurt their hypersensitive narcissist, who will quickly use the empath's outward expression of rage to show how damaged they have been by the empath, and as evidence for the empath being the true narcissist. The trick to an empath actually overcoming this cycle and being strong enough to leave and heal is to actually re-identify themselves with and fully feel their rage and accept that they in fact cause harm and are also allowed to feel rage and lose their composure and care. Yes, yes, yes. And the first time I did that after a long time of exercising compassion and operating from a place of light and love was when they wouldn't fix my hearse because it was in his name instead of mine, and we weren't married, and I fucking screamed and swore at them on the fucking phone, and I don't ever do that, and I told them that I wanted to kill myself over this, just being very honest about it, and it was good, and connecting with my own rage in the moment that I felt it bubble up felt so good. Yeah, so I don't want to hide when I'm angry, and I don't think I should have to hide when I'm angry from someone who abuses me verbally and emotionally, just using me as a punching bag no matter what they're angry about in their life. I'm the one that gets it all, and I'm not doing that. I was speaking tersely. I was not speaking kindly. I stated that I was pissed about the vacuum, so I wasn't directing my anger at them, but I was expressing anger. I was visibly angry, and I feel like that is not allowed in my relationship with this narcissist that I have. Anyway, the trick. Yes, accept your rage. Feel your rage. Lose your composure and care. And honestly, me, like, I would fucking go off. I would fucking go off, except I'm dependent upon this person to live because I'm disabled. That, yes, it is okay to bark and bite back and use unskillful or imperfect means in setting a rage-motivated boundary. It is okay to hurt the other's feelings and even use blame if the other is indeed already going to have their feelings hurt anyways. It is indeed okay to acknowledge in this rage the powerlessness around being repeatedly manipulated into performing empathy and care up against an impossible double standard of composure for the empath, while the narcissist rarely holds themselves accountable. That sometimes it is necessary to use aggression and force to get someone to finally back off if they have felt entitled to your energy, time, and resources. This doesn't make someone narcissistic, irresponsible, or entitled, but rather is evidence of self-love and dignity. Using anger and aggression to force someone to back off of you when someone is consuming your energy vampires, doesn't make someone, which I believe they mean doesn't make you narcissistic, irresponsible, or entitled. It is, in fact, evidence of self-love and dignity. Tears. So for all you empaths out there struggling to be done with a narcissist in your life, or feeling so heartbroken, depressed, and run into the ground by this person, I highly recommend you access your rage. Let yourself fully go there. Let yourself be petty, so to speak. Let your hateful darkness come out. I can guarantee that just as long as you have not stalked or physically or financially harmed the narcissist, you are within your right, and you will finally overcome being hooked in. When you embrace this darkness, you will begin to not care about the narcissist thinking you are messed up and bad. And I don't. I just depend on him to live. The more you embrace being royally engaged, the less power the narcissist has over you, because they cannot use your fear of your basic human nature against you to manipulate you any longer. So he's trying to keep my emotions under wraps. He uses this, well, I'll abandon you if you show any expression of rage towards me, if you lash out after I spend 15 full minutes slinging insults at you specifically about your disability and your shortcomings as a mentally disabled, retarded person, autistic spectrum. I mean, wow. Yeah. Yeah, he does it to manipulate me, and he feels manipulated by me. And even if you do at times go overboard and are messy and hurtful, this is a very important part of the process of letting go of the strict integrity, over accountability, and empathy policing you do to yourself as a means to redirect your rage inward. Well, I've just been I am engaging in this relationship as if I am in an abusive relationship. I've done that before. I'm not repeating my mistakes. I will no longer walk on eggshells. If I'm upset, I'm going to say I'm upset. If I wonder if he's mad at me, I'm going to ask if he's mad at me. And yeah, it starts a fight every fucking time, and I still fucking do it. This is recovery. Rage is recovery, and it will allow you to be more empowered, whole, and more available to have boundaries. That's my other intention that I was working on the whole last year, was setting boundaries, and be cared for, while also being a more genuine and effective healer and empath. I wish you the best in your path to liberation from the pain and trauma of being close to a narcissist. Oh, I wish that for you too, everyone listening. I wouldn't wish this on anyone ever, 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 ever. Not ever. In fact, I want to liberate everyone from their mental illness, from their mental diagnosis, from their mental problems, their emotional bullshit that keeps them from being independent people, that keeps them in toxic family homes, that keeps them locked in relationships with abusive caregivers. I want to give that to the world. Because the only thing keeping me down is physical disability, and I have a whole lot of mental disability that I had to learn how to deal with. So, I feel like that was a good read. This woman is a psychologist and coach. I went looking for something for me and ended up focusing on my relationship with him, and that's really frustrating. Hopefully maybe I don't need to anymore, because now I don't feel rage anymore. Now I don't feel anger at all. Now I'm just hurt. Now I'm just sad. I'm just sad and feel trapped. And feeling sad and trapped often leads to suicide, because suicide is just running out the door of the room of your life.